"Sir, your signature doesn't quite match the one on file." And well, it's a bit shaky, isn't it? The bank teller, a young woman named Chloe, spoke with a poorly concealed smirk playing on her lips as she examined Arthur Pendleton's slightly tremulous signature on the withdrawal slip. Arthur, 78, a decorated combat veteran whose hands now bore the unsteadiness of age and old nerve damage, felt a flush of humiliation. "My hands aren't what they used to be, young lady, but that is my signature," Chloe just giggled. "Right. Well, policy requires a consistent match. I can't process this." 7 minutes later, as Arthur sat dejectedly outside the bank's main doors were suddenly locked. A stern-faced woman, flanked by serious-looking aides, announced the branch was closed indefinitely by order of the U.S. Treasury. If you believe dignity is ageless, type "respect our elders" below. Arthur Pendleton was a man of quiet habits and unwavering principles. His life had been one of service, 30 years in the Army Corps of Engineers, building and sometimes unbuilding things in places most people only saw on maps, often under duress. His hands, once steady enough to defuse ordnance or draft precise schematics under fire, now carried a slight tremor, a frustrating but accepted consequence of age and a shrapnel wound sustained decades ago. He lived a modest, orderly life in a small, paid-off bungalow. His days were punctuated by tending his late wife's rose garden, reading military history, and volunteering at the local VFW, helping younger veterans navigate the labyrinthine VA system. Today, he was at the downtown branch of Sterling National Bank for a simple yet important transaction, withdrawing a modest sum to help his granddaughter, a bright young college student, buy textbooks for her final semester. He didn't have much, but he'd promised. And a Pendleton always kept his word. He'd filled out the withdrawal slip carefully. His signature, though a bit wobbly, was still recognizably his own, the same one he'd used to sign countless official documents throughout his life. He anticipated no issues. He'd been a customer of this bank, or its various incarnations, for over 50 years. The teller window was manned by Chloe, a young woman in her early 20s, relatively new to the bank. She seemed to view her position less as customer service and more as a stage for her own perceived cleverness and authority. She often adopted a tone of bored superiority, especially with older customers she deemed slow or out of touch. When Arthur approached, presenting his withdrawal slip and bank card, Chloe took them with an air of slight impatience. She typed his details into the system, then compared the signature on the slip to the one displayed on her monitor from his account records, scanned years ago when his hands were steadier. Her lips twitched upward in a smirk. "Mr. Pendleton, is it?" she began, her voice carrying a patronizing lilt. "This signature here on the slip, it doesn't quite match the one we have on file for you." She held up the slip, pointing to his slightly unsteady handwriting. "And, well, it's a little shaky, wouldn't you say?" She didn't just say it, she almost sang it, glancing toward her neighboring teller with a shared knowing look, as if to say, "Get a load of this one." Arthur felt his cheeks warm. "My hands aren't as steady as they once were, young lady," he replied, his voice quiet but firm. "That happens with age and with certain experiences, but I assure you that is my signature. I've been signing it that way for nearly 80 years, Chloe let out a small, barely suppressed giggle. The other teller smirked openly now. "Oh, I'm sure," Chloe said, her tone dripping with sarcasm. "But you see, bank policy is very strict about signature verification, especially for withdrawals. Fraud prevention, you understand. If the signature doesn't match precisely, I can't authorize the transaction." She pushed the slip back toward him. "Perhaps you'd like to try signing it again? Maybe neater this time?" The implication was clear. She thought he was either incompetent or attempting something fraudulent. The casual cruelty, the public mockery of a physical infirmity linked to his age and service cut Arthur deeper than any physical wound had in years. He wasn't just being denied his money, His very identity, his integrity, was being questioned because his hand trembled. "There is nothing wrong with my signature," Arthur stated, his voice now edged with a cold anger he rarely allowed himself to show. "It is mine. Perhaps your scanner or your eyesight is faulty. I need to withdraw these funds today for a family matter." Now, no need to get defensive, sir," Chloe said, her smirk widening, clearly enjoying his discomfort. "It's not my fault your signature looks like a seismograph reading. If you can't provide a signature that matches our records, or an alternative form of high-level verification, which you clearly don't have on you." She glanced dismissively at his simple attire. "Then I simply cannot release the funds. Maybe come back when you're feeling a bit steadier." She punctuated the remark with another small, unpleasant laugh. The manager, Mr. Henderson, who had overheard snippets of the exchange from his nearby desk, chose this moment to look incredibly busy with a stack of papers, offering no intervention, no support, effectively sanctioning his teller's disrespectful behavior. Arthur stood there for a long moment, the withdrawal slip in his hand, the teller's mocking words echoing in the suddenly too quiet bank lobby. Other customers were now overtly staring, some with pity, some with uncomfortable amusement. He knew he wouldn't win this battle of wills with Chloe, not without escalating it in a way that felt beneath his dignity. He took a deep breath. "Very well," he said, his voice devoid of emotion now. He put the slip and his bank card back into his wallet. "Thank you for your professional assessment." He turned and walked slowly, deliberately, out of the bank, each step an effort against the wave of humiliation and anger. He found a bench on the busy street outside, the noise of the city a harsh contrast to the cold silence he felt inside. He needed to make a call, not to the bank's customer service, not to his granddaughter to tell her he'd failed. He needed to call someone who understood that a man's worth wasn't measured by the steadiness of his hand, but by the integrity of his word and the weight of his service. Arthur pulled out his worn cell phone. He had one contact saved under Washington Direct Epsilon Protocol, a number he hadn't used since his retirement. It was a direct line to a very specific, very high-level office within the U.S. Treasury Department, an office tasked with ensuring financial integrity and accessibility for individuals whose past service involved matters of national financial security. His work in cryptography had sometimes intersected with exactly that. He dialed. The phone was answered on the first ring, not with a greeting, but with a challenge. "Authenticate." Pendleton Arthur, clearance Epsilon 7, active duress code, Nightingale 0 Alpha. Reporting critical access denial, Sterling National Bank, branch 477. Reason cited, signature non-verification due to age-related tremor, accompanied by unprofessional conduct by teller personnel. The voice on the other end was calm, efficient. "Understood, Mr. Pendleton. Stand by for confirmation. Please remain in the vicinity of the institution, if feasible." Arthur heard rapid typing. Less than a minute passed. "Confirmation received, Mr. Pendleton. Your report is logged and escalated. Standard Epsilon protocols now active. Please await direct intervention. Estimated time frame, minimal." The line clicked off. Arthur wasn't entirely sure what minimal, time frame, or direct intervention entailed in this context, but he knew Epsilon protocol was not a trivial matter. He sat on the bench watching the bank, a strange sense of calm mixed with trepidation settling over him. 5 minutes passed, then 6. Inside the bank, Chloe was likely regaling her co-worker with the story of the old man with the shaky signature. 7 minutes. Suddenly, the main glass doors of Sterling National Bank were firmly, but not aggressively, locked from the outside by two stern-faced individuals in dark suits, who had appeared as if from nowhere. Simultaneously, another two suited individuals entered the bank through a staff entrance, also locking it behind them. Confusion rippled through the customers and staff still inside. Mr. Henderson, the manager, looked up from his desk, alarmed. Chloe paused mid-giggle. Before anyone inside could fully process the lockdown, a sleek black sedan with government plates pulled up directly in front of the main entrance, followed by two more. From the lead vehicle emerged a woman in her late 50s, impeccably dressed, radiating an aura of quiet, absolute authority. It was Eleanor Vance, the current United States Secretary of the Treasury. She was flanked by two senior aides. Secretary. Vance walked directly to the locked main doors. One of the suited men who had locked them produced a key and opened them for her. She swept into the bank lobby, her gaze taking in everything. The bank security guard rushed forward, looking flustered. "Ma'am, I'm sorry. The branch is temporarily—" "The branch," Secretary Vance interrupted, her voice calm but cutting through the sudden silence, "is temporarily under the direct oversight of the United States Treasury Department. I am Secretary Vance. Where is your branch manager, Mr. Henderson? And a teller by the name of Chloe?" Mr. Henderson, pale and trembling, hurried out of his office. Chloe, who had recognized the name Pendleton when the doors were locked and a dawning horror was starting to set in, looked as if she might faint. "Madam Secretary," Henderson stammered, "this is an unspeakable honor and surprise. To what do we owe—" "You owe this visit," Secretary Vance said, her eyes like chips of ice, "to a profound failure of judgment, a disgusting lack of respect, and a potential violation of federal banking regulations concerning fair access for senior citizens and veterans, specifically regarding your institution's handling of Mr. Arthur Pendleton's transaction attempt approximately 7 minutes ago." She turned her gaze to Chloe, who visibly shrank. "Ms. Chloe, is it? I understand you found Mr. Pendleton's signature, that of an elderly combat veteran with service-related tremors, a source of amusement, and that you subsequently denied him access to his own funds based on this shaky signature, despite his valid identification." Chloe could only manage a choked whisper. "Policy? Signature match policy?" Secretary Vance's voice resonated through the silent bank. "Policy does not supersede federal law, nor does it excuse basic human decency. Mr. Pendleton's signature, however unsteady, is a testament to a lifetime of service that your policy has just spat upon. His hands may tremble now, but they once signed documents that safeguarded this nation's financial security in ways you cannot comprehend." She then made a sweeping gesture. "Effective immediately, by my authority as Secretary of the Treasury, this branch of Sterling National Bank is closed, pending a full and immediate audit by the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency and my own department's investigators, who are already en route. All electronic transactions will be suspended. All staff will be interviewed. Your records will be seized." Panic erupted. Henderson looked apoplectic. Chloe burst into tears. Secretary Vance ignored them, turning to one of her aides. "Locate Mr. Arthur Pendleton. He should be on a bench outside. Escort him in here, with my deepest apologies for what he has just endured." Arthur was escorted back into the chaotic bank lobby, which now swarmed with more serious-looking individuals in suits, clearly federal agents, who were calmly but firmly directing staff and securing records. Secretary Vance greeted him personally, her handshake firm, her apology direct and sincere. "Arthur," she said, using his first name with a familiarity that shocked the remaining bank staff, "I am so profoundly sorry. There is no excuse for what happened here today. None." Arthur, though still shaken, managed to nod. "Thank you, madam. Secretary, I just needed to get textbooks for my granddaughter." "She will have her textbooks," Secretary Vance assured him. "And this bank will learn a very expensive lesson about respect, accountability, and the true meaning of service." The audit of Sterling National Bank's downtown branch was swift and brutal. Numerous irregularities in their application of policies, particularly concerning elderly and disabled customers, were uncovered. Mr. Henderson was summarily dismissed by Sterling National's corporate headquarters, which scrambled to do damage control. Chloe was also terminated, her banking career likely over. The branch remained closed for 3 days, costing the bank millions in lost business and emergency compliance upgrades. Arthur Pendleton's withdrawal was processed personally by Secretary Vance's chief of staff from the Secretary's own discretionary fund until his account was fully cleared, with an additional goodwill sum deposited by a deeply apologetic Sterling National CEO. He got the textbooks for his granddaughter. More importantly, a message was sent rippling through the financial industry. The dignity of those who served was not to be trifled with. The slight tremor in Arthur Pendleton's hand was a mark of honor, not a loophole for disrespect, and sometimes a quiet call from a forgotten hero could indeed move the very foundations of financial power. Because a signature might fade, but the ink of service and the respect it commands should be indelible. Subscribe to Hidden Sparks if you believe that true character is proven by how we treat the vulnerable, and that accountability should always follow arrogance.